Hey everyone! Alright, if you're wondering why I'm smiling and you weren't in the live thumbnail that we just did right there, it's because, well, the first part of this is basically going to be me gloating about the good movie that I saw before you and I went to go see the one that we saw together.
Yeah. This, I can finally say this, so for all the people, when you usually see me, they all go, "Where the hell's Brad?"
Mm-hmm.
He's right there. So,
we're not in LA, by the way. No, we wrapped shooting on the movie a few days ago, and did you notice that the weather got nice like a day after we finished?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's really lovely that it was some of the coldest days and record low temps for November, and who would have thought there'd be this much snow?
The snow's all gone now.
It's warm. Yeah, it was wonderful, beautiful day.
We'll talk about this a little more tomorrow. We're gonna do a few hour hangout live stream tomorrow around noon, to also promote the Black Friday sale that we got going on. So if you want to pick up any of our DVDs over at walkawayentertainment.com from now through Monday, they're $5, and the movies of ours that are over on Vimeo are $5.99 to download them and own them over there, and you can find links for that at thecinemasnob.com, as well as on Twitter. Follow us at thecinemasnob to take part in that deal. Again, come check us out tomorrow. We'll be live streaming for a few hours, just doing a little hangout thing tomorrow around noon. So I asked you the other day what time you were free to see a couple of movies, and you said anytime after 8, which the way that the times were here, it could only line up that that you'd be able to see one movie. And I looked at both movies that I needed to see, Creed 2 and Robin Hood, and I went well, you're really, really well suited for either one of these movies. But I was like, but which one would be more hilarious to go see with them? So I went to go see Creed 2 on my own. So if you want to see the Robin Hood review, if you want to skip to the Robin Hood review, look in the summary. It'll click on there to skip to that. So I'll do a non-spoiler
And if
review.
you're just skimming through just to find it, my face will be something like this. So just look for that later on.
Nuh-uh, dude, because you were laughing.
I was laughing.
Movie. We'll get to that in a minute.
I have a whole lecture prepared. I've been taking notes, and anyway.
So anyway, so this will be because I know you probably want to see Creed 2.
Go for it. No, go for it.
I'll keep it I won't get too heavy into spoilers on it. But so you saw Creed, right?
Yeah.
And are you a big fan of Rocky IV?
Yeah.
Who isn't?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. I mean,
you're gonna love this movie.
Okay,
Because
great.
all right, now first of all, let's just get it out of the way. Rocky IV is awesome.
Yeah.
Rocky IV is and will always be the perfect 80s movie. Montages, revenge, the Cold War, talking robots, Stallone.
Yep.
It has everything you need for a great 80s movie. And what I love about this movie, now I'm a huge fan of the series in general, especially of Stallone, who's a hero of mine.
Right.
So I was looking forward to this anyway. What's awesome about this is this movie is Rocky IV Part 2.
Yes!
And that is awesome. And not only that, it takes, for people who love Rocky IV and for people who don't, which I don't want to hang out with any of them, but for
everyone's entitled to their own opinion, but they're wrong if they don't like Rocky.
But you're probably a bummer if you hate Rocky IV. So, but regardless if you love or dislike that movie, pretty much everyone can agree it's the silliest one of the.
Sure, yeah.
Paulie has a romance with a robot in that film. So everyone can kind of agree that it's the silliest of it.
Yeah.
And to do what they do in this movie by taking really the most outlandish one out of all of them and really treating it really respectfully and being really gritty and dark and and giving dimensions and layers to characters that, as much as I love Ivan Drago, he's a great 80s villain. He is. What they do with him in this, the dimensions and layers that they give his character is something like I never thought I would see in a movie. And that is awesome. Like, I'll put it to you like this. This movie, like, watching Rocky 4 and watching this movie is like if The Dark Knight were a direct sequel to Batman Forever. Like, and that's kind of awesome.
Yeah, that is. Yeah.
So it kind of follows, like, even though it really is like a follow-up to Rocky 4, it kind of follows the structure a bit of like Rocky 3, where like Adonis Creed is like the heavyweight champion at the beginning of the film, kind of has a bit of an ego on him, and then is challenged by Victor Drago for this fight, and you see this in the trailer. Like, it kind of lays it out in the trailer a little bit. Like, he fights Victor Drago, really gets his ass handed to him, and then he's retraining after that and has to get the eye of the tiger. So it kind of has a little bit of a Rocky 3 structure to it as well. But what I really, really, really like about this movie is, yes, the opponents are the Dragos. It's Victor Drago, Ivan Drago's son, and Ivan Drago is the one who is training him. But you really empathize with them a lot. Like, you really see from their point of view why they are doing this. You absolutely do from Adonis Creed, because this exhibition fight with Ivan Drago and Apollo Creed is what killed his dad.
Right.
And Rocky Balboa has had to live with this guilt for 30 plus years that he should have thrown in the towel. And yes, he beat Ivan Drago at the end of that movie, but as he says in this movie, he's had to kind of live with all of this brain damage that he's had ever since then. But what we see with Ivan Drago in this movie and his son, while a lot of bad things happen because of the events of Rocky 3, between losing Apollo Creed and between the health issues Rocky has had, Rocky Balboa is still very much a beloved figure in his community, and he is this boxing icon, this boxing hero. Whereas when Ivan Drago lost 30 plus years ago in Russia, what he's had to live with ever since then is his country basically abandoning him, being labeled as this loser, this coward, everybody hates him, and his wife ends up leaving him as well. So he and his son have kind of had to live with that anger and resentment for that long, especially Ivan Drago basically being the only parental figure to his son. It really digs in pretty deep in those issues. Like, it does stuff with Ivan Drago in this movie that I never thought I would see in a movie. Like, right down to like when they meet after all these years, Ivan Drago goes into his restaurant. It's cool. Like, this scene they have together in it, where they're basically, where he lays it out just like what he's been through over these years, but he's still there's still that Ivan Drago in there. He's still a man of few words, but he does talk more in this than he does. But he's still kind of a dude of few words, and he has a big arc in this movie. You see by the end of it how much his son resents his own mom, how much he resents his government, but Ivan Drago still is trying to like win back respect for his country and his government, and you see how there is this quarrel between him and his son over this, and by the end you see this arc where he really is kind of protective of it. He does love his son by the end of it, and so that was cool too. And there's a cameo in this movie. I won't spoil it.
All right.
There's a cameo in this film where my jaw like fucking dropped when this person showed up. I was like, I never thought I would see this in a Stallone movie again. Like, my jaw dropped when a certain person shows up in this film. Like, I really love this movie.
Awesome.
And again, all the stuff I'm talking about with Drago, this is all going side by side with everything that Adonis Creed is dealing with too, between he knows that a Drago killed his dad, and like, this could very much happen again. And what's happening with him in the movie is he gets engaged. He's got a baby on the way. He has a baby in the movie, and but while at the same time, it's like he still feels like he has to do this. He has to kind of do this for his dad, who he never really knew. And then when he, like, quote unquote, loses the first time because Victor Drago gets disqualified in the fight, so he doesn't technically lose his title, but he lost.
Yeah,
like you know, like so. You see why he still kind of has to do this again.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even Rocky has this arc where at first, like, he doesn't want him to do this because, like, he was there when his dad died, and, like, he's had to live with this guilt and didn't throw in the towel and everything. And, like, it's some really great dramatic stuff. And it's so cool that it's all linked with Rocky IV.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. No, that's awesome. Yeah.
I really, really, really dig the hell out of this movie. And if you're a big fan of the series in general, like I am, and like you are, and a lot of people, and if you really love even the sillier Rocky movies, you're gonna like this. Like, it's a follow-up to a movie like you never thought it would be, like these characters would be, like Ivan Drago
amazing,
would be treated this series. Like, it really is, like, it's one of Dolph Lundgren's best performances. He's really good in this film.
I love it. I love it. I got to meet him briefly.
Oh, really?
Sharknado 5.
Yeah.
He's in the last scene of Sharknado 5, so I got to meet him briefly.
What was he like?
The most awesome person I've ever met. He was so cool.
And he's like a genius too.
Yeah,
he's like a fucking like certified genius.
Yeah,
and
no,
shit.
he was the sweetest guy.
Yeah.
He was totally on board for anything Anthony wanted him to do in Sharknado and 5. So no, I was like, oh my god, I'm getting to meet him, and he's like not an asshole. He's great. He was really cool. Yeah. He was so cool. He was so sweet. So yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Like when they have like this stare down with each other, like in the ring, Stallone and Dolph Lundgren in this movie, it's like, oh shit, like something like my childhood came back. Like watching this, like, oh shit, it's like 33 years later, and Ivan Drago and Stallone are like staring each other down, like in the ring and shit. Like, it's awesome. No, Stallone should have won the Oscar for the first Creed movie, and I don't know, maybe they can make it up to him for this one. I don't know. I think this movie's getting really good reviews, but no, he's fantastic in the movie as well. Really, all around, it's a great dramatic work. It's a fantastic sequel. I really, really love this movie. So I highly recommend it. It's one, I know that there's a lot of movies playing out this weekend because I've seen 7 movies in the last 3 days. So it's like, I know there's a lot of movies playing out right now. There's some cool ones. This one is by far one of the better movies I've seen this year. Like, I mean, yeah, I'm saying that like as a fan of this series and a diehard fan of Stallone, but I genuinely love this film. This is a great sequel. It is totally a worthy sequel to the first one and the series, like, in general. Like, I totally dug it. Okay, so Robin Hood.
Right there. This is the point where it meets up. Okay. Holy hell.
Go for it. You can take the mantle, is that the phrase that I'm working for?
Take the giant stick and beat this thing to death. Yeah. Okay, yeah, so okay. All right, The Legend of Robin Hood, right? Okay, so
you're giving this far too much credit. I think it's just called Robin Hood.
No, this is just called Robin Hood, but I'm just saying, like, The Legend of Robin Hood.
Oh, okay.
The legend of, like, Sir Robin of Locksley and of Robin of this person. Like, there is actually like a grave of Robin Hood in England. It's on private property. It's not like a tourist thing.
Sure.
But like there's a tomb of Robin Hood, and you know, this legend. So like there's some like truth to it, and I don't have all the research with me. Like, you know, I haven't done all those notes exactly, but like, they basically said, fuck it, let's just make it like a medieval, like, somewhat action movie, and we'll just pseudo-medieval, and just call it Robin Hood, because why not? First, like, of my many, many, many questions, one, what era was that? Because it, like, okay, so it, like, it's supposed to be, this is the Third Crusade, which is, like, 9th century or something, and then, like, they have, like, leather jackets and, like, 3-piece suits.
I have a theory that it's in the Star Wars universe.
Because, Ben Mendelsohn, right?
Yeah.
Who's playing the exact same character from Rogue One. He even has the same costume and haircut, which, by the way, medieval barbers, they were fucking great, and they also could get hair gel.
Yeah.
Like what I got. In the 9th century or 12th century, whatever the hell. You know what? I don't even have to get the era right, because they sure as hell didn't.
I don't think they were trying.
No, and that's the thing.
I think it was supposed to be just a very, like,
stylized,
metrosexual stylized version of
okay,
this.
so and then like the other thing is that like okay, so you know he gets drafted into the Crusades,
Which looked like the Iraq War, but if they were using bow and arrows.
but like okay, so yeah, it was this heavy-handed allegory of the Iraq War, which I'm sure made them all just stand up and applaud themselves.
Yeah.
Thinking how clever they were. Because the first part of the
That was
movie,
one of the parts you were laughing at.
I was laughing at because I was like, oh great, it's Saving Private Robin Hood.
Yeah.
Awesome. There's not even that. No, it's American Sniper, but they have bow and arrows.
That's totally what it was.
Like they probably shot it on the same set where they did American Sniper.
Yeah.
Because it was color time. Like each type of war movie has its own color timing, right? And there's a color timing for the desert look.
Yeah.
That is what they use in like American Sniper or anything that's Iraq War based.
Yeah.
Like we used it on the
Seagal one.
The Seagal movie we shot.
Or Indivisible, the Pure Flix
Indivisible.
movie.
They all had that same color timing. So it's that color timing, and it's Robin Hood, Sir Robin of Locksley, with like his special forces team.
Yeah.
And they're going through the city with their bow and arrows going like covering fire, and they're running around doing these special forces moves.
There's a machine gun arrow.
And then so like one of the Moors or whatever has basically like there were things like that. They were called scorpions.
Oh, okay.
Like they were a tiny little ballista that you could crank and it would fire out bolts.
Yeah.
Right? Now, again, these like some of that stuff like sort of existed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like having it set up like a machine gun in place, because that's what it was.
It was a machine gun.
They did a medieval attack on a machine gun.
Yeah.
And like I guess it's like I was like it's ballsy of them to do that, to be like, oh look, because with how rapid fire they're shooting arrows and how rapid firing the bolt the scorpion thing was firing, it was a machine gun assault. This was a modern era machine gun assault.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, it's ballsy of them to do that, but it's also ballsy of them to assume such shit happened. Like
I don't know if the makers of this movie actually think something like that.
No, I don't think they did either. They're just like, oh, this will be totally awesome.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing. He was like, oh, this is totally awesome. It's like I guess, but like, but it's like, okay, so what a cool action sequence. But I'm like, but like nothing like that would ever have happened.
Well,
and I mean, get it?
You can tell the kind of movie that they're wanting to make here simply by how it's edited, because it's one of those movies where it's very much inspired off of like I don't know, like Guy Ritchie style editing, where it's like it does the thing all the time where it's hyper slow-mo, then instantly shoots into fast motion, and then back to slow-mo.
Speed ramping is what we call that.
It's a lot of that.
And I mean, like, I get that that's like an interesting style and whatever, but like, it's mostly just that just make I guess it had to be called Robin Hood, otherwise nobody would have cared. I mean, I don't know. Like,
that's because
it's not even close to like. It's basically like saying, let's make a World War I movie about the Battle of Dieppe, but let's also have dragons, because why the fuck not?
Well,
and the thing is that, and then like also saying, but this is the true story you've never heard.
No, because I remember Disney's Robin Hood, and Alan and Dale the Rooster came out at the beginning and told me that's the true story.
Right, yeah.
We animals have our own version. They do that at the beginning of this.
That's effectively what
it opens with like showing the book, like it's Disney's Robin Hood, and then the voiceover talking about shit.
It says, you might think you know the story of Robin Hood, but really it was like this.
Or whatever.
This
movie opens with a trailer for itself.
Right.
Like, it opens in the first 2 minutes, summing up Robin and Marion. There's no build up to that. It's just summed up and basically just
together,
a trailer for the movie that I just am about to sit through.
Right.
It's ridiculous. This movie is basically like it really. I wondered about this from the trailer. Because the first time I got a trailer for this movie, I was like, this movie looks like a piece of shit.
Right.
The second trailer I saw, I was like, well, this is a slightly more interesting trailer. Always go with your first instinct, people, really, because what this movie is, this is a bad movie, don't get me wrong, but like it's a less shitty version of that Guy Ritchie King Arthur movie that came out a year or so
Right,
ago.
right, yeah.
Like
yeah.
that movie was way worse than this film
See,
is.
I mean, I
but
guess
this movie's still not very good.
It's not a good movie because I don't really care about any of the characters. And the thing is that like, I mean, I think some of the action was handled well. You know what I mean? Like, it was some interesting action sequences and like.
I mean, I could tell what was going on. I'll give it that.
If you basically just accept the fact that they have crossbow machine guns. Because they did.
Sure.
You know, the guards had crossbow machine guns that they could rapid fire crossbow bolts out of.
I mean, if the script was there, I could buy along with something like that.
And so like if you're just giving up and you're like, you know what, this isn't supposed to be. It's just supposed to be, you know, like a pseudo fantasy.
I mean,
action movie, whatever. Then I guess it's sort of, you know, there's action, whatever. But then, I don't know. I mean, there's just, I can only suspend disbelief so much when it's supposed to be a period piece. When it's not also fantasy. Because that's the thing, is that this wasn't supposed to be fantasy. This is supposed to be a period piece. And there's nothing there's a costume sequence where it looks like the fucking Canto Bright sequence out of Last Jedi.
No, yeah. This
this
movie looks like it's in the Star Wars universe.
It does, because again, Ben Mendelsohn is absolutely
even the way everyone else is dressed in it too. Yes. Like Robin Hood might as well be young Han Solo in this
absolutely,
film. Like he totally might as well be. Like as much as this movie was better than that King Arthur movie did. I'll say this. That movie did a lot of similar things that this movie did, where neither one of them is supposed to be any kind of realistic period piece.
Sure.
But what the King Arthur movie did, I will say this, what it did better than this is that from the very beginning, it set up that this is more of a fantasy universe. Like, it's doing He-Man shit in that movie. There are, like, skyscraper-sized elephants in the first part of it. So it's like, okay, well, all right, that is setting up that, like,
I mean, you're bringing me in a world where you're telling me this is fantasy.
Yeah, I mean, even King Arthur itself has fantasy elements to it anyway. But, like, this... From the way everyone was dressed and a lot of the weapons and stuff in the movie, like I could, and by the editing too, because this is clearly supposed to be, it's style over substance by far. It is its hyperkinetic action style over anything that's on the page. But I never thought that, like, it's... I certainly picked up on, like, this movie isn't supposed to be realistic. It is just supposed to be this Matrix-like action sequences but with Robin Hood characters.
But the thing is that, and this just goes back to just being lazy writing and just lazy, you know, wanting to produce a movie. You know, an hour and a half of bitchin' wicked cool action sequences doesn't mean a goddamn thing if the characters suck.
No, they do. Like,
and like that's the thing is that, like, you know, I can, like, again, if these characters were amazing and they were super compelling and the dialogue was just really, really clever and really, really cool, then, like, I'm gonna forgive all the you know, like, okay, special forces, like modern day tier 1 people, they go in on rescue missions, right? That's the only reason Navy SEALs go out. Subtly, they're gonna tell me I'm all wrong here in a second, but I mean, like, they don't just like, let's go patrol the streets. No, like, they had a mission. Those guys had no mission. They're just like, let's just send, like, you know, archers in the middle of this Moorish city because it'll be awesome. And like,
that's totally what it is.
And like, I mean, fine, you know, it's like, oh, let's, you know, it's totally, it's like Call of Duty with bow and arrow. It's totally bitchin'. And like, I can see them all jerking off around the table thinking about how great an idea it is, and not one person thought, hey, maybe we should make these characters compelling.
Oh, because the only thing that they do for characters in this movie is they give them names that you recognize, and that's it. And that's supposed to be their character. Jamie Dornan is Will Scarlet in this movie, and it's like, oh, Will Scarlet, I recognize that name.
That's right. That's one of the guys from the, you know, from Men in Tights.
Like is Christian Slater's character too in the Kevin Costner one. Like, only in this they're not brothers, and it's this love triangle because Maid Marian and everyone thought Robin of Locksley was dead, but then when he came back, they're doing the Pearl Harbor love triangle where it's.
They thought he was dead, but oh no, he's actually... And then...
so now she's with Will Scarlet, and he is like this man of the people protester
Right,
type
and there's
guy.
this weird thing about like a mine, which what the hell were they mining?
Oh,
'Cause
they're being
everything
forced to work in the
everything was
mines.
explosive.
Like the one guy shows up and he's like, "I'm Guy of Gisborne," and it's like, "Oh, okay,
And
I
there's Guy of
recognize that
Gisborne.
name."
Yeah, it's like, oh, okay.
And like, Jamie Foxx is a hybrid between Morgan Freeman's character from Prince of Thieves
Yeah.
and Little John.
Yeah.
He is Morgan Freeman's character from
Right.
Prince of Thieves.
But his name
he's
is
called
John.
Little John or
Little
John.
You call him
like,
John, but yeah.
But so they're like making this hybrid between those characters, and you're right. Like I care about none of it. I was watching this movie thinking like, I don't know why this was made. I don't know why this was happening. I'll say, like, it doesn't feel like it's that ambitious of a movie. It's just a movie where they're playing with a bunch of cool toys to make a Robin Hood movie. Like, it's not as boring as the Ridley Scott one.
Right.
But the Ridley Scott one was more ambitious than this one.
Yeah.
Nothing like if you're gonna do this again, do something clever with it. They almost did with the Ridley Scott one, where like originally the plan was it was gonna be called Nottingham, and it was gonna be from the point of view of the sheriff, I believe, or the inner workings of Nottingham. But the studio was like, no, that's too different. Make it Robin Hood again.
Right.
And so like
here, I almost thought when I saw some of the early like trailers for this, or early clips or whatever, because what they're wearing looks so modern. I mean, Ben Mendelsohn, he's wearing like a suit. You see him put on a suit and then a suit jacket and then like a tailored leather coat.
Yeah.
And Robin Hood's wearing like a tailored leather jacket with these cool like dimples, and then he's got the hood.
Yeah.
And then I honestly thought, is this like post-apocalyptic?
That would have been more interesting.
Like oh wait, this is a post-apocalyptic society where maybe someone's taking the legend of Robin Hood. It's like, oh, okay, all right, that sounds more interesting. Nope, it's just a errorless fuck it.
You're right, because one of the opening pieces of dialogue is the narrator going, "I'm not really sure what year it is."
Yeah, that's actually what he said.
He
goes,
literally
I don't know what year it is, and he says, and if I told you, you wouldn't believe me. It's like, where the hell were they?
Well,
was that England? That looked like Asia.
We'll
like
find
the buildings
out
looked like Asia.
because this movie had the balls to set up for a sequel.
Oh my god!
Like, whoa, dude. Okay.
Oh yeah. No. They're like, oh no, guess what? You like this?
We'll be back. No, you
more.
won't. You're not coming back. You fucking movie.
Oh my god.
There's a couple of things that I thought the movie did that was interesting. One, I thought that the only decent character in the movie was Jamie Foxx.
Yeah,
like his acting was solid.
Right.
And also like he had a backstory that was better than anyone else's, to the point to where I was like, why isn't he our lead character?
No. He had a backstory.
No, yeah, exactly.
That's the point.
Yeah.
None of the rest of them did. It's like, oh look, it's Maid Marian.
Yeah.
Maid Marian, you get
With Jamie Foxx, we see like his son die in front of his eyes and stuff like that. Like, all right, like I can follow this guy.
Right.
Why isn't he our fucking lead? Like, he was the only interesting one in the movie, and Jamie Foxx is better than this movie deserves.
I agree with you on that. 100%, yeah.
And I did, because this I hadn't seen a lot of in a Robin Hood movie. Like, I did, granted, they don't do it to its full potential, but I did enjoy the fact that Robin of Locksley had to be somewhat kind of undercover and go and like
he had to Batman.
Yeah, he had to Bruce Wayne this whole thing.
He had to be Bruce Wayne in front of the sheriff and be like the suave playboy and play the game, and then he had to be the hood by night.
And he builds up the sheriff's like trust and respect, and I was like, okay, they don't go far enough with it, but I was like...
No, it's like, okay, it's like for the very first time, he proves himself to the sheriff for the very first time, and he's like, I trust you now. By the way, here's every detail of my horrible evil plan.
Yeah.
This person I just now have decided to trust.
Right. No, yeah, you're right. They don't...
That's convenient.
They don't do it that well, but I
no.
was like, because those scenes were Taron Egerton and Ben Mendelsohn playing off of each other, Ben
Mendelsohn chews the scenery wonderfully in the same way that, I mean, because he's playing director Krennic. again.
No, he's
like,
playing practically every role I see him in.
Right,
like,
yeah. No, so
right down to also Ready Player One.
Right, at any point I was expecting him to say, the Death Star plans. Well,
Yeah.
It's like, well, wait, wrong movie, buddy, wrong movie.
Ben Mendelsohn is, he's very good at playing this kind of character, which is why that's mostly what I see him in lately. But, like, he is just playing that character again. Like, it's okay, he's fine, but whatever. I've seen this the last couple times I've seen him in a movie.
Well,
like,
it makes him a two-dimensional bad guy.
Yeah, whereas Alan Rickman in Prince of Thieves, who's brilliant in that film, is deliciously over the top in that film.
Yeah.
At least in that, Alan Rickman, he wasn't just playing Hans Gruber again, whereas Ben Mendelsohn is just...
He's Director Krennic or every other,
or his Ready Player One character. Like, whereas, Alan Rickman really fucking made that his own character.
Yeah.
He's the best. I fucking love Prince of Thieves. I'm gonna throw it out there. Like, I
love
that fucking movie.
It's
by the
right.
way.
I mean, like, you've got Prince of Thieves, which does it so well. Which, again, I haven't researched the exact legend or what as much, as we know it of the real legend of Robin Hood there is. But like, at least, I mean, okay, Kevin Costner didn't speak with an English accent, but at least it seemed like the movie of that era. Like they weren't trying to say, it's the Third Crusade, but here's a roulette table. Right?
Right.
I mean, because fuck you, that's right.
It felt like a big medieval epic, and like the score was beautiful, like the action was great. Great fucking villain, like really memorable characters and performances because they were characters.
Right,
in that
they were characters.
Movie.
They actually had to.
This one, no, like I have to stretch to kind of compliment this movie a little bit, and the biggest thing I can come away with, because again, there were tidbits of things where I was like, you had a seed of something here.
Right.
You had a seed of an interesting way to go in this.
Yeah.
Like you could have gotten to where like Loxley was getting in so deep, maybe he'd start getting seduced a little bit by the sheriff and like Ben Mendelsohn's charisma.
It was like the instant,
and also like, how do they not know he's Robin Hood? Because like even when he's like with the sheriff talking about like, like trying to pretend like he's bad, he's still doing like shifty eyes,
right,
stuff,
and like winking at Maid Mary.
He's saying shit like, well, it's got to be a really talented guy to get away with this, huh? I can't wait to see what the Hood does next. Like, right? Because you are him.
And Ben Mendelsohn says, Lord Vader will never. The Cardinal will never. Oh, shit. What movie am I in? Where am I? What stage is this?
I mean, the biggest compliment I can give towards this film, which is why I'd probably say like. Look, I mean, if you're really into Robin Hood and everything, maybe just watch it on Netflix.
Yeah.
And the reason why I can only go that far and not saying like, oh, fuck this, one of the worst movies of the year, is just because at least it didn't piss me off as much as that King Arthur movie.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, is that like really like the movie didn't necessarily offend me too much.
It mostly bored me, honestly.
Right, it was mostly just boring. Other than like, as I'm sitting here and as someone who loves medieval warfare and studying it and that sort of thing, I'm like, because they literally, I mean, it's literally Call of Duty but medieval style, in that they're shooting the bows and arrows, and there's this big like ambush scene where they're shooting people off the rooftops and sliding around and doing their jumping and slow motion bows, and then they go, call in the rock throwers, and it's literally they call in an artillery strike.
Oh yeah, they showed up out of nowhere.
They shoot a bow and the arrow with like a flare on it,
and
then you see the rock throwers, the giant like catapults or onagers or whatever they want to call them, like they're like, there's orders fire, and then they start throwing rocks at the city.
Yeah,
it's like, why did like, but it's like, why weren't they just doing that?
Like, they showed up out of nowhere.
But the thing is like that's the point of like special forces. Special forces go in surgically to like rescue somebody. They weren't there to rescue anybody. They're just like, we're hunting bad guys. We're hunting bad guys. And then, oh no, bad guys! No, that's not a sound military strategy. You siege the city with giant fucking flaming rocks, and then if they don't surrender, you actually go in there and you try to kill them all one at a time using swords. So no, it's like, we're special forces. It's desert warfare, and cover me. We're falling back. Not to say that, okay, someone's going to find some article somewhere of some, like, special forces medieval. Maybe. Maybe. But no. There's no. Just no. Just no. So, like, I mean, okay, other than that, which just, that pissed me off, because I'm like, they're not even trying to say that, like, oh, this was real. No, it's like, no, this is just, fuck you, we're doing Call of Duty medieval style.
No, and also, like,
then,
they might as well have just gotten, like, I don't know, like, the way that this movie's shot, edited, the way the action is, it's like, why don't you just get Jet Li to play Robin Hood at this point?
or just make it modern day.
Yeah.
You know, just fuck it and make it modern day. I mean, you know, and that way you can
Or
actually have modern day, futuristic, or the post-apocalyptic.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so that way you can play with these stupid things and have your automatic crossbows, which, you know, how the fuck did they lose the Crusades if they had automatic crossbows? And also, this rebellion really worked because England was never again under the yoke of a king after Robin Hood. Oh, wait. So, it ends with... Oh God!
It ends with the sequel baiting when clearly that sequel will be made, when our new villain of it is all of this is then happening because someone got burned in a love triangle. Like, what the fuck? This movie's not good. This movie sucks.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like, oh, you suck, movie. You suck.
Any final thoughts about it?
I mean, like I with so much else that's been playing right now.
Yeah.
It just doesn't seem like a good use of your money to
go
see this in a theater.
This movie should just be dumped on Netflix.
It's a Netflix dump, and like I said, for the novelty of, you know, a medieval Call of Duty, it's kind of interesting to see, just because it's like they got balls for doing that.
There's
but
probably 20 other movies you could see that are like better than this. Even like something I'd see that was like crappy that might be playing right now. Like,
it's like the action sequences are okay, if not just very generic. You know, just very generic action sequences.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know. It's if it's on and you can't reach the remote.
Yeah, or if you don't have like you know, Disney's Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, the Errol Flynn one, the Sean Connery one, like
Men in Tights.
Men in Tights, yeah.
It's like Men in Tights for a comedy feels more like a Robin Hood movie than this one does.
If you don't have access to any of those that are far better than this fucking movie. Look, if your choice was between this and the Russell Crowe one, I would probably say this, only because this one's shorter and less boring. Right. And that's it.
Right. The only thing I was looking forward to getting into this is that it's Taron Egerton.
Taron Egerton,
Egerton. Apparently, he actually really is good with a bow.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen some behind-the-scenes thing of him, like, training. He's actually pretty good with a bow.
Yeah.
It's like, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Not worth a whole movie, but it's kind of cool.
I mean, props to him for doing that.
Sure, yeah, that's cool. But, like, is it worth all of the rest of it?
Is it worth... Yeah, I know.
No.
That just makes you sad. It's like, all for this movie.
Yeah,
you know? I mean, I respect that, certainly.
No,
I wish the movie turned out good.
Right. I wish it would have been like... I wish I would have cared about his character. I wish I would have cared about Marion. I wish I would have cared about the sheriff. I wish I would have cared about any of these people. But, like, they never took any time to talk about them. Or it was just like, dude, we're going to do slow motion things. And,
they were just types. They had roles to fill and recognizable names. And that was recognizable character names, and that was it. So, all right, come tomorrow. Come see us tomorrow. We're gonna do like a live few-hour hangout starting about noon Central Time here to go along with our Black Friday sale. So go to walkawayentertainment.com. All our DVDs from now through Monday are $5 each, and on Vimeo the movies are $5.99 to own. You can find those links at our Twitter account. Which
you got to use the code Black Friday 18.
Oh yeah, thank you.
So if you use Black Friday 18 at checkout, it'll reduce it down to being $5.99.
Yeah.
So
use the promo code Black Friday 18 and follow us on Twitter at the Cinema Snob. And thanks a bunch, everyone, for watching. I hope you had a great Thanksgiving yesterday. Thanks a ton. Take care, everyone.